Thanks a lot, Kathy. All right, 7 o'clock. Like to call the Town of Beaumont Council organizational meeting to order. Welcome everybody. Unfortunately, we have some housekeeping we got to go through at this time every year, so we're going to get through some council organizational stuff, and then we'll close that meeting out and dive right into the regular council meeting, and we'll go from there. So, can I get just for council, what's on the electronics is all loaded for the council meeting proper, and so we'll be showing hands in the organizational meeting. So can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as presented? Councillor Danluck? Discussion on the motion or any adjustments to be made? Seeing none, all in favor? Carries unanimously. Item 3A, council meeting schedule 2018-2019 and council agendas. So, administration. Ms. Winter.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to members of council and the public. Section 192 of the Municipal Government Act states that council must hold an organizational meeting annually, no later than 2 weeks after the third Monday in October. The business of the organizational meeting relates to appointment of council members to boards, committees, establishing a roster for deputy mayor for council term, and any other business as required of the Act, or which council or chief administration officer may direct. Administration would like to note that the deputy mayor's schedule was set out in February 27th this year at the last organizational that we held after the by-election, and we did not bring that forward for further review. Administration is recommending the following: that council continue to hold regular council meetings on the second and fourth Tuesday of each month, commencing at 7 p.m., and the committee of the whole meetings the third Tuesday of each month, commencing at 5 p.m. Administration is also proposing an amendment to motion number 2, that the draft agenda item 10A include councillor inquiries to the agenda template. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there a member of council prepared to move that item number 1, council continue to hold regular council meetings on the second and fourth Tuesday of each month, commencing at 7 p.m. and committee of the whole meetings on the third Tuesday of each month, commencing at 5. Councillor Stout, discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Carries unanimously. Is there a member of council prepared to move the draft regular council agenda as amended? Councillor Danluck, discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you very much. Which moves us to item 3B, council member board and committee appointments for 2018-2019. Once again, Ms. Winter.
Thank you, Worship. Through you to members of council and the public. Annually, council is presented with recommended appointments to a number of boards and committees at the organizational meeting. The mayor has received input from elected officials, which has now been updated and attached for council's consideration. That administration is recommending that council approve the 2018-2019 council member, board, and committee appointments as presented to take effect immediately and expire on the 2019 organizational meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there a member of council prepared to move the committee appointments? Councillor Hendricks. Any discussion on the motion? Everybody's checked. It came out right. Not right now. You can. All right. Seeing no discussion, call the question. All in favor? Carries unanimously. And which brings us to the end of the meeting. Consider the meeting adjourned. I think that's a record. All right, this time I would like to call to order the regular council meeting of Tuesday, October 23rd. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as presented? Sorry. Are there any, before we get there, are there any additions or amendments to the agenda? All right, seeing none, can I get a motion? Councillor Hendricks. All right, discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? That carries unanimously. All right, so just before we get into the meeting, as we've taken and want to do, this is the point in the meeting where if there are any proclamations to be read, I get to do them. So I'm going to take 2 minutes and proclaim World Town Planning Day in Beaumont on November the 8th, 2018. Whereas since its inception in 1949, World Town Planning Day is celebrated in more than 30 countries around the world. And whereas World Town Planning Day highlights the valuable contribution sound planning makes to the quality of our communities, and whereas Beaumont's vision to be a vibrant, inclusive, livable, and sustainable community requires deliberate, wise, and strategic planning decisions, and whereas World Town Planning Day also serves as a reminder of the importance for all citizens to engage in building stronger, smarter communities, and whereas we want to recognize Beaumont's 18 staff members in integrated growth and their commitment to our community, now therefore I, Mayor John Stewart, do hereby proclaim November 8th, 2018 as World Planning Day in the town of Beaumont, dated this 3rd day of October 2018. Thank you very much. All right, so consent agenda. We have 3 items on the consent agenda tonight. So I move that council consent to approve the following agenda items without debate. Item 4A, the regular council meeting minutes of October 9th, 2018. Item 4B, committee of the whole meeting minutes, October 16th. And Councillor Barnhart's committee report. Discussion on the motion. All right, seeing none. All in favor? That carries unanimously. We have no public hearings this evening, which brings us to item 6A, presentations. Tonight we have 2 registered presentations. I'd like to invite Lori Morinville and Marcia Fott. Did I get that right? To the front of the podium. Please make sure, sorry. Sit at the podium. Yeah, just for the record, if you could just make sure you sign in, speak clearly and loudly into the mics. And just a bit of a update. As we have passed the new procedural bylaw and we've now passed our organizational meeting, we now have a timer. Registered presentations are 10 minutes max. Then we're going to cut you off. Unregistered presentations, 5 minutes max, and then we're going to cut you off. We're going to try and stick pretty hard to those timelines in the next year coming forward. And so tonight's the grand experiment, so just work with me as we go. Please.
Thank you. Gotta go fast. Okay. Does the clicker work?
Should.
Is it on? It's not working.
TikTok, Larry.
Okay, anyways.
Reset the clock.
I want to reset. I want to reset.
Thank you, Sam.
All right, let's not get too busted over 20 seconds.
Okay. Thank you very much for this opportunity to make this presentation. I'd like to introduce the 2 of us, Lori Morinville and Marcia Fott. We're both longtime Beaumont residents, really long time, and committed users of the Beaumont Sports Recreation Centre. We would also like to thank all the studio and fitness center users that have taken time out of their busy schedules to come out and show their support, and the many more who were unable to be here tonight. We want to preface all our comments with a few observations, and of course, all comments are on behalf of all users. No one is more excited than the users in the Beaumont Sports and Recreation Centre at the proposed expansion. Thank you, councillors, for the proposed expansion, for going ahead with what is really needed in our community. However, I don't think any of us considered the proposed closure as part of the plan. Given that there was no advanced conversation about this, it did shock us that the facility would be closed for such an extended period. Since the Recreation Centre was built with the intent to expand, we assumed there would be some kind of integration while using the building, with as limited an interruption as possible and the use of the existing facilities. We would strongly encourage council to push the builder to keep the gym open as long as possible. If this is not the case, we believe it is very important that we come up with solutions that benefit our community and at the end of the day, leave everyone with a positive feeling towards this project. As it stands now, the majority of considerations and discussions have been focused on the building. There doesn't seem to have been much thought about the people side of the project. And if we build it, they will come back perspective is not a realistic one. So to end that, we the people would like to address 3 points. Continued programming during the closure of the recreation center, preserving the current schedule and structures as much as possible. This would include the child care. Point 2, thinking outside the box and coming up with solutions for studio space and continued use of the fitness equipment during the closure. 3, supporting the need for a Beaumont recreation arts group in our community. I'm going to turn it over to Marcia, and if you could go back to slide 1. Thank you.
It seems that an essential element of the new facility discussion has been missed, the people and the community element. We speak for all supporters that the studio classes and fitness center, and the rest of the facility, of course, are not only a means to physical fitness, but are also essential in maintaining one's mental and important social connections and mental and social health. Seniors and parents of young children are particularly vulnerable to elimination or reduction of their social outlets, and for many, the rec center classes and equipment is an important social outlet. Let's try to maintain them as much as possible. Many individuals also use the classes and instructors for rehab purposes as well. To minimize programming or expect people to figure out fitness alternatives and childcare, since the childcare center allowing young parents a childcare option to work out is already closed, to have them for up to 2 years, it would be devastating to many from a physical, mental, and social perspective. The rec center is growing into a real community hub. Let's keep building on that. Pun totally intended. To that end, we feel it is imperative that existing programs are continued as much as possible throughout the closure, utilizing the current instructors in their current time slots. We have been advised that this is happening to some extent, and we commend the town for getting the ball rolling on this. But we feel there is more that could be done that will serve to maintain facility loyalty, staff positions, ensure patrons continue to support the rec center during the downtime and want to come back once the new building opens. In addition, we want to publicly recognize that we have amazing instructors and trainers at our facility who are not only well certified, but also have the personalities and dedication that keep us coming consistently back. Many of us attend 5 days a week or more. They have done a tremendous job in fostering an atmosphere of community and family at the center, which is what should be happening at a facility such as this, now and going forward to the new building. Their experience with the programs and patrons makes them uniquely qualified to have useful and positive input to the interim programming. We trust that when the new facility opens, these instructors have been made to feel just as valued by the town by having been included in a collaborative interim process, maintained continuity of their positions, and are as excited as we are to get back to routine in our beautiful new center. We have been advised that the current pricing structure utilizing annual memberships will continue, for which we are extremely grateful. In doing so, it would be very advantageous to the town and the facility manager to promote the benefits of annual memberships, to increase numbers and get users more loyal to the rec center, ensuring they'll still be around to patronize the new facility when it finally opens. Going to point 2, click. Thinking outside the box. First, we would like to emphasize that we feel the fitness center and studio should be kept open at least as long as the pool, though we do recognize there will be a need for some closure time. However, during this downtime, the town should be looking at more than just one alternative. We know that there is limited programming scheduled for the CCBCC, which is fine. But we also know space and time slots there are very limited. We also suggest it doesn't have to be an all in that one spot or nothing kind of thing. Classes can occur in different locations as needed. And so some suggested options. There are a number of empty retail spaces in our community, and that number is growing daily. Let's get creative and negotiate a deal to use some of this space to relocate our gym and studio. The town has invested in hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment. Having it warehoused for a year and a half or two makes little sense. We strongly encourage the town to lease space and relocate the gym equipment to carry on the theme of patron loyalty and a positive community outcome. Another option for the early morning 6 a.m. classes is the school gym space. Generally, it's wide open at that time of day. Why not utilize it? Back to Lori in point 3.
Point 3.
Look at us.
We're here as a positive force that we want to support the need for a recreation and art group in our community. We believe that if we had a group made up of the volunteer organizations in our community that provide recreation arts activities along with individuals from the rec center, we could provide continued and collaborative information on needs and programming for the community. Having a continued dialogue that considers the needs of all users would make planning for the future much easier. Public consultation is great, but we really need to be hearing from the people that actually provide the programs. Beaumont is so fortunate to have so many volunteer organizations. We should be utilizing their expertise. Communication is key to effective organization. Let's encourage and facilitate it as a community. Thank you for this opportunity to make this presentation. We sincerely hope that Council will push to make sure that the expansion of the rec center is done in a positive way, and that we will continue to provide our community with a space to stay fit and connected. Thank you.
Trying to drag it out.
Put your address.
Well, thank you very much for coming in tonight and for your presentation. And actually, you've hit on a lot of the points and a lot of the discussion that council has had with administration, and it's still ongoing. And I can assure you, we are pushing administration to try and keep as much of the facility open for as much of the time as possible. And we're still thinking. However, I do have a quick question for the CEO. Have we considered some of these other factors? Mr. Hiltz?
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council and the public. The first thing that we actually looked at when we were faced with the closures of the Aquafit Center, now the Beaumont Sports and Recreation Center, was leasing space in the community for the gym. What we found was that due to lease costs and needing about 4,000 to 5,000 square feet minimum, the current size of the Aquafit Phase 2 gym is about 8,600 square feet. The cost of that at about an average lease cost of about $20 per square foot, including common costs, would take that up 7 additionals. That would be over $100,000 per year lease costs. Then we'd also have the improvements of that space where we'd have to put in flooring, change rooms, lighting, front access, electricity, everything else. So the first year of costs would be in the neighborhood of about $250,000 to $300,000, and then you'd have your lease costs after that. So we basically did the cost-benefit analysis with the type of equipment, moving it forward and stuff like that. We really didn't feel that it was a cost-effective solution. With the classes that we're offering 56 classes coming up in the next season. We're offering 62 presently, so we're pretty much almost right at that same benchmark. And so we are working towards trying to minimize some of the risks and things like that moving forward. So just thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
We don't get a rebut.
Sorry?
We don't get a rebut.
No, we don't.
All right, so consider it a work in process, and council will continue to move on with it. As to your point number 3, we are currently working with the Beaumont Sports and Recreation Society and the Beaumont Society of the Arts to get those committees up and running. So hopefully we'll see those come to fruition soon.
Good.
But beyond that, please keep in contact with us. We will try to keep going, and we'll keep it on. Thank you very much for coming in tonight.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
No. Second presentation tonight, and I apologize if I get the name wrong. Ms. Jen Gullion, the Playground Project in Colonial.
So we are going to be speaking on behalf of the community within Colonial Estates. My name is Curtis Harrison. I live at 253 Riker Drive in Beaumont.
I'm Jennifer Guillen. I live at 242 Riker Drive in Beaumont, and we're going to be talking to you about the Colonial Playground Project.
I still got that wrong. Sorry.
Okay. We stand before you to bring forth a proposed plan for a playground to be built in an existing designated PRS site located on the east side of 52 Rosemont Boulevard in the new Mattamy Homes development.
I had it.
Still not working?
It was working.
That's from the slide.
So who are we? We represent hundreds of families in the Colonial neighborhood who have come together and want to improve the quality of life for our community. The new development within Colonial Estates is full of young families who move to Beaumont for a greater sense of community and a family atmosphere. When you travel down Riker Drive, around Rideau Crescent, and onto Rosemont Boulevard, it is not uncommon to see bikes on the front lawn, groups of kids playing together, and even adults engaging with one another. It is a neighborhood where everybody waves to one another, and we have grown to be more than just neighbors. This is what we were looking for when we decided to relocate to Beaumont, and feel that this playground project would only add to that sense of community.
Why are we here? We are seeking support from Council to provide capital funds for a new playground in the Colonial neighborhood. We have had very productive conversations with administration about this project and understand it will be presented in your budget package for consideration. We would like to highlight the need for the project and provide some background context for your budget deliberations. At this point, we would like to thank Carrie Hiltz, GM of Community and Protective Services, Ian Frankton, Parks and Facilities Manager, and Amanda Cuthbert, Manager of Recreation and Culture, for all their time and effort already invested in this project.
So why do we need a playground? Development has boomed in the eastern part of Colonial Estates, and to date, 175 houses have been built to completion since 2014. There's more houses currently under construction and lots still to be developed. The closest playground for us is to take our kids to Colonial School or the Purple Slide Park by 50th Street, which is a 20-minute walk in one direction. Playgrounds are a great place to run off some energy, develop our young boys and girls, and make great friends. Some of you may think that a 20-minute walk one way is achievable to get to a playground. However, when you add kids into that walk, it is anything but. After speaking with the community, most families do not utilize these two parks that we currently have available to us simply because of distance or having to load their kids into a vehicle simply to get to a playground. In order to stick with our strong sense of community, we feel that a playground that can be utilized by all kids in the neighborhood should be within walking distance.
Beaumont's strategic plan. We are very impressed by this new council's focus to engage with citizens and promote a healthy lifestyle. One of your key pillars in the strategic plan is livability. We feel this playground project fits right within the lines of your vision for Beaumont. Part of your strategic plan for Beaumont was for recreation and cultural facilities infrastructure to be available to all citizens, as well for natural public spaces to be available throughout Beaumont, contributing to regional livability and providing opportunities for citizens to connect with and enjoy nature and play. Although we do have the golf course within our community, which adds to our parks and recreation infrastructure, it is not a place that is accessible for all our children to enjoy.
So on the slide, the green circle represents the potential new site for the playground on the green space along Rosemont Boulevard, which is already designated as a PRS, and no new changes are required to the land use bylaws. In order for anyone within the newly developed colonial estates to get to the existing playgrounds, they would need to travel up Reichert Drive and onto Country Club Boulevard, since the golf course cannot be used for access. Ask that you change the slide, please. This picture represents the proposed playground site at its current state. The park would be built around the existing infrastructure, and we have already spoken with administration on this.
Collaborative approach. Administration will provide you all the details and capital funding requests during the budget process. However, we realize that council needs to be prudent with taxpayers' dollars, so we are planning to do our own fundraising to contribute to the playground. This will not only ease the impact to taxpayers, it will also create a sense of pride for our community and will ensure we get full use and respect of our new space. We have reached out to several families, including a Facebook page with over 100 members who support this project and are willing to help out in any way possible to get this project off the ground. We have already put a lot of time and effort into this project and have spoken with neighbors in our community about the need for a playground. I'm sure any one of you who went door knocking during the election process last year would recall the amount of families that would like to see a playground be built in our community.
This is that park? Sorry, I'm remembering this from the election. This is that park? Okay. It's coming together.
That one? Yeah.
It's coming together.
So at this point, we'd like to welcome any questions that you guys may have.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate your coming in tonight. And like I said before, it's now starting to come together. I do know, because we have the budget binders out, that this particular park is in for discussion in the next couple of days, and so that's where we sit. So we'll get discussed at budget and allocate it or not, and we'll go from there. And I know that if it does get approved, there will be some significant public consultation as it goes forward. And it's nice to see that the neighborhood is willing to come and help out and raise some funds and do that kind of thing, because I have small kids. I got 4 of them, and I have done that 20-minute walk. And so I feel the pain. And one of the things, and I'm probably speaking on behalf of council, that we love about living in Beaumont is the fact that we do have all these parks and these places that we can go and live in a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
So appreciate it, and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, brings us in.
Excuse me, can I make an unregistered presentation?
We're heading right there. That's the next item on the agenda. All right, so it brings us to the portion of our meeting where we have unregistered presentations. Unregistered presentations get a total of 5 minutes to speak to council, and once again, it's not really intended as an open dialogue forum. It's intended for citizens to come and make presentations to council so we can hear and see your thoughts. Mayor and council is more than happy to talk with you on the phone, email, meet with you for coffee, and of course we do set up from time to time in-person engagement sessions. So if you're going to make an unregistered reservation tonight, please come down, sign in, state your name and the subject that you're here to speak to us about, and we can go from there.
There was a game show that had people sign in right on the presentation. You don't want us to do that?
Unfortunately, we don't have the technology for that.
That's your mistake, right? Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council, for allowing us to speak today. My name is Scott Fraser, and I live at 120 Rosemount Court. And beside me is Mr. Jay Ward, and he lives at 122 Rosemount Court. If I could, I don't know who's working the slide. Can we get that last presentation put up? I'd like to talk to that presentation. If you could move that to the picture of the playground, please. Just so that...
Proposed playground.
The proposed playground, yes. Yeah, the next slide. Yeah, so this picture is obviously taken at the green space that's in question. You'll notice that there are two houses, the white one and the dark gray one, on the east side that are adjacent to this. Those two homeowners are here tonight. My house is the green one in the middle. Jay's is the larger walkout that you see here, and Candace is here with the other one there. So there's 5 properties that are immediately adjacent to the green space in question. And I'm here to speak on behalf of those 5 homeowners. We've each made a sizable investment in our homes in the town of Beaumont, and all of us have moved in here in the last year. Kim and I are the longest residents of those 5, and we've been here 10 months. When we made this investment, we were told that this green space would remain a green space indefinitely. All of these, we made that investment with that in mind, that this green space would remain a green space. It kind of struck me funny in the last proposal, because this is the first time I've seen this. None of these 5 property owners have been consulted in the proposal that you just witnessed. In fact, we found out only about this by accident late last week, so we're unable to give you specific concerns at this time because we still don't know what exactly is being proposed here. Our concerns arise from the close proximity of our properties and the restricted covenants that we have on our properties as a result of being adjacent to this area. Each of these 5 properties have caveats on the properties that restrict the use of the back of these properties. The fence that you see around this green space property is actually owned by the 5 people that own those houses. And the covenant prohibits us from changing the fence in any form, and its maintenance and the is our cost and our cost alone, and not the town's. So it has to remain a chain link fence. Also, we actually own 1 foot beyond that fence inside of this green space, so that what activity goes on in this green space literally is in our backyards. So we're not against developing of this green space, but it is a blind side for us out of the blue. So we don't know what concerns we may or may not have, but it seems like this proposal has been well on its way without consulting the 5 properties that are absolutely most impacted by the change of this use of this property. So what we're asking here today, we're asked that council not allocate funds to develop this in 2019, so that we can facilitate meaningful discussions and ensure the concerns of all the residents in the area would be met or addressed. And I just, just as a kind of an observation, I mean, I just don't know why anyone wouldn't have come up and knocked on our door and asked what we thought. I would expect, I'm disappointed. This is my first time living in Beaumont. I've been here 10 months. I would have expected better than that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming in and presenting your opinions tonight, and I do appreciate them. Generally, what sort of happens is if we're going to do a park along this nature, we'll allocate funds for it within the budget, and then public engagement will begin. Because if there's no funds allocated, there's no reason to do any public engagement, because everything will maintain the status quo. And so I think what's happened is we're a little before the cart before the horse, and I apologize if you're feeling excited about that. I mean, it was not the intention, it was just sort of out of the process. I do know that if in the next 3 days council does approve funds for this, public engagement will occur, and then you'll be contacted at that time. If we don't approve funds, I don't imagine there'll be public consultation because there won't be a park to be had. But having said that, I'll lay that on admin and we'll sort that out in the next 3 days, or next, but 3 days of budget consultations this weekend.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else wishing to address council this evening?
Do I just go? Hi. Hi, everybody. I'm Chantel Yardley, and I live at 5515 51st Avenue in Beaumont, and I'm here as the president for the Beaumont Society for the Arts, and I'm here with Grant Tolley, who is representing the Beaumont Society for the Arts as our past president. I'm here. First, I would like to thank you all for your support so far. It's been an interesting challenge lobbying for the arts over the last 4 years, and I just want to thank you all for your support and listening. Most of what I'm going to say right now is a sum up of a letter I sent earlier, and again, I thank you for reading it and your support. We are here today to urge Council and Mayor to review our arts policy for approval. We are forced to push this right now based on the new grant policy that was being presented for approval at the Committee of the Whole meeting last week. We were slightly surprised by the grant policy that was brought forth, and we were then surprised that the conversation rotated quite a lot around the Beaumont Society for the Arts, the BBRF, the Heritage Society, and the Egg Society. And I'll tell you why. So again, we're here to push for you to have a look at the grant policy and approve it before the budget deliberations. Our policy is 2 years in the making. It has been with admin since May, after we first came to council to present it. We've met twice with administration to review and refine, and again, we were sort of shocked that the grants policy was being put before our arts policy, because it has been in the process quite a lot longer than the grants policy that was being discussed. I'm here to speak on behalf of the Arts Society, BBRF, the Egg Society, and Heritage, and basically what I need to tell you is that they should not be funded by grants anymore. Arts and culture deserve a budget line, like many communities all over this country. And that budget line should come from our operating budget. All of the groups that I'm representing and speaking of have proven themselves in the past. Over years, they have provided programming, events, and things like that. None of these groups are a startup anymore. We are not in the startup phase. As a BSA, we're probably the youngest one, and we have had 4 very successful years of arts programming in this town, thanks to the support of council. We, the Art Society, in our short 5 years have supplied arts programming such as events, sponsorship, council, and awards. And this is what, if you're wondering what consistent arts funding looks like, it doesn't come from a grant, it comes from a budget line. And I just want to, I only have 3. These come from the Duke and the McLeod. And when you have successful, consistent funding, you can then pre-plan and you can grow. We need proper funding through the budget line that will be managed through an arts and culture committee / council to continue to grow and plan for the future. It will help streamline decision making, and it will help with accountability. And it will take a lot of the minute decision making and the off council, and it will be put in the hands of the people that really know how to manage and know what is going on and what needs to happen for the future of our town in arts and culture. Basically, we deserve a piece of the pie. The other volunteer organizations in this town deserve a grant policy to help enrich our community. Arts, culture, sports, rec, they all have a spot. And then others can step forward and apply for grants to try to enrich our community as we have already. So I ask you to finalize the arts policy so you can implement it at budget this year. It's important for us that, and I'm just going to read this straight from the letter so that I don't mess it up. We would like to recommend that the council brings forward the arts and culture policy for approval in order to facilitate the 2019 budget deliberations. That the 2019 council budget deliberations move the ongoing arts and cultural programming items from a grant-funded basis to a budget line item basis. To accommodate arts and culture budgeted funding as a separate category within accountancy systems for purposes of financial accountancy, transparency, and statistical analysis of arts and cultural funding. And consult with stakeholders and continue deliberations in the proposed grants policy once the final disposition of the arts and culture is known. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I did receive the email. And the rest of council received the email, and we're very appreciative. The reality is we're not going to get to that arts policy before budget. We would have to be able to schedule a special meeting, and the timing and the whatnot, the advertising and the procedures that surround it aren't going to allow that. So I'm not trying to downplay the importance of the art policy, because it is very, very important, and I agree we should get to it. And I'm told when your email came in, I asked the CAO, it is coming in before the end of the year, along with the grants policy, and so we'll look at them together and make sure they streamline, and off they go. But yeah, unfortunately, we're just not, due to the procedural things we have to do, it's not going to happen before budget. But arts is still high on our priority list. It's still something we all support, and it's still something that we're willing to work and move forward on. I can see you're upset.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for your presentation. So my understanding is that, yes, we're speaking to budget over the next Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That's just our deliberations. Then we go forward, and we've got November. We've got to go through readings and this public consultation and all that sort of thing. So we're not approving this in the next 3 or 4 days. We have a few regular scheduled council meetings coming up. I also remember us changing the process around that, and I'll ask Ms. Winter to weigh in about how we advertise for meetings, and we allowed us to submit electronic advertising so that we could potentially shorten up a time frame if needed. So I would just put it back to administration to say why couldn't, based on the fact now that we can advertise it, why couldn't we see this at maybe the end of November regular council meeting in time for budget to be able to go forward and do that. And if we can't, then that's fine. I thought that's why we addressed the policy.
Let me clarify. We can get it done before final approval of budget, but we cannot get it done before the weekend when we're doing our workshop, is what I meant. If that was unclear?
Not on that, and I think that's fine. I think we can have a discussion at budget. We've seen the draft policy. It might not be approval. We can have a discussion, philosophical conversation. Should it be operating or should it not? And then we can go into the policy. That's just my 2 cents, and I'm curious on where others stand on this. But I think we can approve the policy in November. And if I'm wrong, then please speak to that.
Mr. Schwartz?
Your Worship, through to Councillor Monkoff-Swain, the policy is not in a final draft version. There still needs to be some dialogue back and forth between the arts group and administration. So to be able to pull that together by the end of November, I'm not sure that's possible.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. And
Okay, so not wanting to get into a big debate, we'll work on it. Finish off, sorry.
No, that's okay. So thank you for the clarification. What is stopping us from having the discussion at budget about an operating budget line versus a grant versus the grants before we approve the wider policy? I'm just looking for some guidance there.
No, that's a very good question. There's nothing stopping council from addressing that from a line perspective or for a delay on policy. That's entirely your choice.
Thank you.
Final comments?
I think that you can do whatever you want because you are our elected officials, and we, the town, have put you in a position to do the best thing for our community. And we need art support, and we need culture support, and that's it. We have been doing this for 4 years, and I have to say I appreciate Kerry. I really want to thank Kerry for all his work, and I don't want to put down administration in any way. But there is no reason why we have had this going since May, and that it can't be looked at, and that you can't have those discussions in a realistic way and decide whether you are the mayor and council that are going to decide to support arts and culture in this town forever. You've got the power.
You are correct, and we will take that under advisement as we go forward and do the best we can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else in council chambers wishing to speak to council this evening?
I don't know if I can follow that, but I'll try.
It's all right.
It's okay. It's okay. Good. I don't need a pity clap. Anyways.
How'd you follow that?
My name is Megan Schulmeister. I live at 4210 49th Avenue. I currently have 2 children in the Early Learning Childcare Program, the Town of Beaumont's Early Learning Childcare Program, and in January 2020, that will be 3. I attended last night's council meeting about the options that were presented for the child care program, and I just want to talk to one of the options that council decided to move forward with, and that was the cost recovery option. And I just want to speak to how that will affect my family. Based on the current 80% cost recovery model, our family, for 3 kids, would be paying $2,600 a month for childcare. If that cost recovery model goes up to 90%, my family would be paying $3,000 approximately, and if that goes up to 100%, our family would be paying $3,300 a month for childcare. This cost recovery option has a huge impact on my life. I currently work full-time as a professional engineer, and I don't think I can maintain $3,300 a month for childcare. I wanted to go back to work after my 3rd child, but financially, I just don't know if that would be an option if I had to pay $3,000 or $3,300 a month for childcare. I know the 80% cost recovery model, like what we're paying currently, is comparable to other programs in the area. If the town went to the 90% cost recovery model or the 100% cost recovery model, I think we would be exceeding the cost. We would be more than comparable programs, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And I'm just here to ask council to think about how, if this affects my family, how it affects the other families in the community. I know Vicky is a single mom, and she has 2 kids in the program, and again, that cost would apply to her as well. So I'm just here to ask. I'm not asking for anything else, but just for you to consider how the cost recovery model would impact my family as well as the other families in the program. That's all.
I appreciate that, and having 4 kids of my own and done that math,
Yep.
I know what you're thinking. Just to clear everything up, the cost the 3 models that were picked,
Yep.
they're not for implementation.
We know that.
They're out for engagement.
Yep. Yes.
And to be honest, I don't expect too much change in the 2019 budget as to drastic increases or reductions in fees, but council will have that discussion coming up here.
And I just wanted, I guess the point of coming here was just to let you know from a parent's perspective before the deliberations instead of during the actual public engagement.
Yeah, no, and I do appreciate that, and as long as you make sure you make your feelings known at public engagement.
Exactly.
When it comes around, it's thoughts well taken, and we'll keep it under advisement.
Great. Now you can clap.
It's like, is there anybody else in council chambers tonight wishing to address council on any matter? Thank you. Sorry. Yeah, well, it's interesting. I want to hear the transit update too. So moving on to item 7A, first year summary of the Beaumont Transit Commuter Service, Ms. Kathy Lewin. Are we going to clap for that too? Sorry, I'm on a roll. If you can't have fun in council, where can you have fun?
All right. Thank you, Your Worship, and members of council and members of the public. I just wanted to come in this evening to go through the first year summary of our Beaumont Transit Commuter Service. So you'll notice on page 29, the ridership numbers are there. We're looking at just over 21,500 people rode Beaumont Transit in the first year of service, which we're looking at an average of 87 riders per day, and that is above the estimated average of 60. The revenues in the next table show our past sales for the year, as well as the cash fares collected on the bus. You'll notice that in September 2017, there was no cash fares collected because we did that ride-free campaign. And that actually went very well. So we, looking at the budget information so for the 2017 budget year, we were very close on our anticipated revenues, and then so far to the end of August of 2018, we've actually surpassed our budget for operating revenues. We did conduct a survey to gain feedback on the service for the first year. So we did an online survey, and we've also we had 2 or 3 members from administration ride the bus for the second week of September to check in with the riders and see what things they wanted changed or what they liked about it and things like that. So those results will be shared once they're all compiled. And then just for information, the September 2018 ridership, so I know that's not included in the original table because it was just the first year summary, but looking at the September 2018 numbers, we are at just under 2,500 riders for the month of September, and we collected over $2,000 in cash fares on the bus, and then our past sales were increased from a year prior. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the update. It's actually an exciting time for transit because we just recently signed that MOU to look at regional transit with our EMRB partners, as well as a couple of other communities that aren't on the EMRB that signed up to be part of that. And I know we are starting ongoing talks with Leduc County and Leduc to see about adding and changing service, and there's some really good ideas coming forward. So it's nice to see our fledgling bus service is exceeding expectations, and we can go from here. Is there a member of council prepared to move the motion to accept the report as indicated? Councillor Danlock.
So move, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion? Questions? Ooh, really? Oh, this is slow. Councillor Stout, you're up first.
Thank you, Worship. Through Your Worship to Ms. Lewin. I plotted the figures that you gave us for the first year's ridership and put them into Excel and drew a graph with them, which I'll happily share with you.
Have you seen this?
I have, yeah.
But the bit that worries me about it is the trend is decidedly downwards. For most of 2018, each month was, actually for all of 2018, each month was no higher than the one before, and most of them were lower in terms of the number of riders. And that worries me a little bit. Actually, it worries me quite a lot because the system trends to zero after about 3 years for the ridership. I don't really, but I'll stress that I don't really believe that's what's going to happen, but that's still not growing. That's the opposite of growth. There was some question as to whether or not what we're actually seeing was a cyclical effect, as of course we'd expect ridership to fall in June and in July and August. So I also just assumed that the number for September 2018, which I didn't have when this document was available, I assumed that that number was exactly the same as the previous September, and that there was no cyclical effect on that, but I still get a fairly sharp decline. So I guess my question is, what can we do to reverse that decline? Because looking at this, I think we do need to take some action. Now, whether that's putting on more routes, changing the routes, having more buses, lowering the fare, raising the fare, I don't know.
Well, I'll let Ms. Loon answer, but like I said, it's an exciting time in transit. We just signed an MOU. We're opening up.
I know.
Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, through to Councillor Stout. So just to, I guess, go over some of the ridership numbers through the first year of service. So through the survey that we conducted on the buses for the second week of September this year, we did notice that the majority of our riders are post-secondary students, which accounts for the decline starting in April of 2018 through the summer months, because there typically isn't school during those months. I realize that some post-secondary, they do that summer term, but for the majority it's not a huge number. So we knew that those numbers would decline for those months, and we knew that the ridership would increase again in September, which is evident by the numbers that you see in this report. But as far as increasing the ridership, as part of the survey, we did ask the questions about schedule, if they wanted different times, and I do know that we've had some interested, like senior citizens or like teenagers requesting bus service on the weekends or at different times during the day for appointments and things like that, which we can certainly look at. That obviously will increase our operating expenses when we run the buses more. So there's a balance that we have to look at. So once those survey results are compiled and we do see that there's a majority of residents want, say, a 10 a.m. service, then that's something that we can look at maybe reducing one of the runs either in the morning or afternoon to accommodate that extra service and not have an increase in cost. That we can do additional marketing and promotions for the service. We could potentially add more stops, those kinds of things. So that's something that we're looking at for sure.
Good. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that we are expanding the service, because I think that's important. But then, can I do a second question?
Sure.
And if I understand this correctly, you've also quoted the operating costs. And can you help me here and check that my maths is correct on this? So 2017, the net operating cost actual was $248,382, and 2018 year thus far was $351,073. So those two add together, according to, well, I didn't do the sum, I did it in Excel. So those are combined together is $599,455. That was the actual operating cost for the year that we ran it. Am I correct?
That's correct.
And during that same period, we provided 21,572 rides, which again, I just summed the numbers that you'd already provided. So, cost per ride, if I divide the one by the other, gives me a cost of $27.79 that the town is providing for each time somebody rode the bus one way. I just wanted to make that explicit. I'm not sure. I think that's quite a high cost compared to, say, taking an Uber.
Well, I don't know where to go with that tonight, but it is food for thought, and we will be, like I say, there's lots of discussions up and coming and changes we're going to make, so we'll just take that, keep his comments in mind, and we'll take it forward as we go. Is that acceptable?
Well, the only question was, am I correct? Have I manipulated those numbers correctly to arrive at that solution?
I didn't actually calculate what it would cost per ride, but yeah, looking at these numbers, yes, that's what it would be. I do know that there are only 2 transit services in the entire world that actually make money.
Oh, yes.
One of them is in Medellin, and the other one is in Japan.
Where circumstances would be very different to Beaumont, yes.
Everyone else is running at an operating deficit, so.
Yeah. And just a quick reminder, we're not here to, it's nice to get the thoughts out and get the juices flowing, but we're not here to make any definitive decisions on the transit service this evening. So
no, I just wanted to make those two observations. And
yeah, I see the lineup though, so I just want to make sure everybody knows we're not in a decision-making mode tonight. Councillor Moncton-Swain.
Thank you, and I take your comment. I'm going to make a very quick observation and then a question, I promise. So I was glad to see, thank you for putting the September 2018 number in. Riding the bus, I noticed there are a lot more people on it this September. I just think it's part of anything that is new. It's a cultural thing. Once people start feeling that, you know, it works for them, they start telling their friends the numbers are only going to build. So given the fact that 2018 was our highest number yet, an average 123 riders for that month, that's the highest one we've exceeded. Thank you for that good data. My question is around the estimated average. So when we decided to put this in, presumably the town came up with their own metrics on what they thought was going to be, what their goal was, right? Now, to me, it looks like here our goal was an estimated average of 60 riders per day, and the actual average we got to 87. Could you just provide the methodology, the thinking behind where we came up with that 60 number? How do we come up with that methodology to determine what is success and what's not? And the context is, you know, if we say 60 as our goal and we hit 87, then to me that is successful. But the question that's out there, which I think is a legitimate one, is how do we set that bar? So,
sure.
Thank you.
So basically what this number came from was we had a consultant come in. Well, we've had one in 2012. We did a transit feasibility study, and then 2014 we did a shuttle bus study, and then in 2016, prior to that council making the motion to proceed with transit service, we were looking at numbers and what that would look like. We looked at demographics of Beaumont, we looked at other transit authorities within the capital region, and looked at the starting of a transit service being this close to Edmonton, that our ridership would start off fairly small and just continue to build as the service continued. So we looked at between those two different studies, and then the one consultant report that was done in 2016, and then we kind of basically calculated that what it would look like on a daily average. So,
thank you. Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Ms. Lewin, for the numbers and the figures and running the program. It's quite something, and I'm really trying really hard not to see the trend. I've been in programs that have followed kind of a cyclical trend, so I'm kind of hoping this is one of those. But my colleague to the left of me has much more experience with the data than I do, so I'll remain the optimist. But I have a question about promotion and what else can we do or are we planning to do? I know we have ads in the paper, and we have, of course, the buses in town. People see it. The sign at the entrance to town. Do we have anything else planned? Because I do think there still remain people who don't know enough about the buses running and when it's running and what times it's running. So is there anything more we can do? Can you think of anything that we should be doing to promote this service more?
So right now we're looking at, we have AM/FM marketing that did all of the original marketing and advertising for the buses. So we're looking at ways to kind of revive some of those ads that we originally did and look at ways that we can be more present on social media and those kinds of things. I know being on the buses, we had a lot of the riders saying, you know, we're really grateful that you guys are out here and talking to us, and so we're looking at doing different campaigns. We have nothing, I guess, concrete at this point of what's coming next, but that's something that between myself and other administration that we're looking at what that looks like moving forward.
And if I could, Your Worship, just add that I actually have had phone calls since the story was out there about the MOU. And again, people hoping that we continue to expand it into the region, because that's one of the downsides because of the limited destinations. But again, I understand that you got to start somewhere, and I hope we are in there for the long term. Thank you.
Yeah, I know that Councillor Monkoff-Swain and I have a Transit Commission meeting coming up in the next week or so, so we'll probably be, or a couple of weeks. Haven't really heard back yet. No. It's coming though. It's coming between now and November. That's going to be slow. It might be a little faster with our regional partners. But yeah, there's some interesting things happening with transit. Councillor Hendricks.
Your Worship, and thank you, and certainly thank you for touching on the consultant piece. For the consultant piece, that was very important. Perhaps this council could see what that report looked like. There was a rollout. There's a cash burn for a period of time to get us to a certain volume. There's also other strategic pieces like the Ellerslie Road, 50th Street hub that will be there at some point, and then the Valley Line LRT, that connection, and what that does to our timing and schedule. So I thought the gentleman who we had did an excellent job mapping out the strategy moving forward and what it takes to get your ridership up, and where he said we should start. We started with this particular shuttle approach, and then we work our way up to where he thought we could go next, which is the next phase. The other neat thing about that study was the ability to understand where to put bus stops in the community. It was amazing, like just by analysis as to how to place them and what that would do also for ridership. So I think it'd be important to bring this back, and so people can digest it and understand it. We are on the right trajectory as far as what he said was going to be the outcome, and with the other two concepts, the Valley Line LRT and the hub, huge difference once we go from here to 50th Street and we're done, right, in terms of traveling.
Oh yeah.
Right?
No, I agree with Councillor Hendricks. I think we're on the right track. I think we're heading down. I think I heard a couple of neat ideas at the Mid-Cities Mayors that I won't go over tonight, but for unique and interesting ways to expand service at minimal cost. So I think it's just to sum it up, I think it was a good first year. It exceeded expectations, and I think we just continue the work and continue the transformation into a greater, bigger, better service, and we go from there. Seeing no further discussion on the motion, I'll call the question. All in favor of accepting the report for information? And that carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Lou. All right, item 7B, and then we'll take a quick break. Regional context statements. I don't see Mr. Wong. Surprise. Anytime you're ready. Sorry. I'm looking at. Yeah, get the timer going.
2 minutes?
10. You get 10. You're ready for presentation.
Thank you, Your Worship, and members of council and members of the public. I would like to introduce Tika Brome, who is our Senior Planner of Regional and Economic Development Relationships, aka Senior Planner Long Range Planning. And Tika will be here to discuss with us our regional context statement that needs to be sent on to the Edmonton Metropolitan Region Board. Thank you.
So, good evening, Worship and Council. I'm happy to be here to go over Beaumont's regional context statement with you. The Edmonton Metropolitan Region Growth Plan requires that all member municipalities update their municipal development plan to align with the growth plan within 3 years of it coming into effect. Within 1 year of the growth plan being approved by the province, member municipalities are required to prepare and submit to the board a regional context statement that outlines how their municipal development plan complies or does not comply with the growth plan today. Regional context statements are due by the end of October, and they are a transitional implementation tool accepted by the board for information. Administration intends to bring forward a new municipal development plan for Beaumont Council's consideration on November 13th. The regional context statement presented to you as information here today compares policy direction contained within the growth plan and Beaumont's existing municipal development plan bylaw 486-98 and identifies how the new MDP is expected to align with the growth plan. Beaumont's new MDP will respond to the growth plan's 6 policy areas, which are economic competitiveness and employment, natural living systems, communities and housing, integration of land use and infrastructure, transportation systems, and agriculture. It will include a mandatory greenfield density target of 35 dwelling units per net residential hectare, aspirational intensification targets, support for urban agriculture, environmental stewardship, ensure Beaumont grows into a more complete community, and other key policies that support policy direction within the growth plan. With council support, administration will submit the regional context statement to the board as information. That concludes my short presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. I had a chance to read the document, and it was really comprehensive and well done. Is there a member of council prepared to move that council approve the regional context statement as set out in attachment 1, and that administration be authorized to send it to the Edmonton Metropolitan Region Board for information? Councillor Stout.
So moved, Your Worship.
Discussion and questions on the motion. Did you have one? Sorry, did I override you? No?
I don't think I did.
Anybody? Okay. You do. All right. Councillor Stout.
Sorry.
It's like the Keystone Cops tonight. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It is. I apologize for my confusion. The first point, aspiring to intensify Beaumont's built-up urban areas. Where I grew up, Beaumont would not be considered to have any built-up urban areas by comparison. Where are Beaumont's built-up urban areas? Could you describe them to me, please?
Ms. Winter, could you put up the map that I forgot to ask you to put up? So within the growth plan, the built-up urban areas are actually really just defined as areas that were subdivided before a certain date, before the plan was approved.
Okay, so that's the...
So this map is meant just for information purposes at this point, but you can see the red outline.
Do that to me.
That's what we're anticipating to be our built-up urban area, and we get to define that when the MDP comes forward. So this will be the area that the EMRB will use to measure whether we're hitting our aspirational intensification target, any growth that happens in that area.
Within the red boundaries?
Right.
So shaded...
Peach.
Lavender and pink.
Peach.
And peach.
Yes.
Taupe.
Another key part of that is Beaumont actually has an urban center identified in the growth plan, which is Centreville.
Yes.
So we have a target, aspirational target there for 100 dwelling units per net residential hectare that will occur over time as well.
And I'm sorry, what's the aspirational density for the rest?
Oh, well, no, it's just, it's an aspirational target. It's an year, maybe. It's not, we're not talking development or...
Sorry. Through your worship to Councillor Stout, the aspirational intensification target for Beaumont as a whole is 10%. So we would strive to intensify our built-up urban area by 10%.
And the lavender coloured area there by up to a specified number of units per.
Striving to get to 100 dwelling units per net residential hectare over about a 75-year time frame.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for including that. That wasn't clear to me.
Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you very much for this information. First question, I think I know the answer. It's going as information to the Edmonton Metropolitan. It's not as, they don't have approval, it's just where we sit.
Our understanding is that it's for information and planning purposes. Of course, when the municipal development plans or other statutory plans come forward, that's when the REF process kicks in and approvals.
Okay. And then my specific question is about the agricultural part. So policy area number 6, and because I sit on the RAMP task force, the Regional Agricultural Master Plan, 6.2 speaks of an agricultural impact assessment will be required as part of any new area structure plan application. Could you just give me a little more insight into what that actually entails and how big of a deal is that for Beaumont?
So the intention, my understanding through the growth plan, is that's an implementation tool that they'll be looking for municipalities to implement. Every time an area structure plan comes forward, they're intending that to be part of the technical work that goes on before an application comes forward.
So I can add a little bit more into that. So through your worship to Councillor Barnhart, right now when an area structure plan is coming into administration, we are reviewing it and they are required to provide this agricultural impact assessment, which talks about how agriculture is going to be accommodated as development occurs. We are an urban area. Most of our agricultural land that borders Beaumont is prime agricultural land. We are recognizing that, but it is identified as being for urban development. But we're looking for ways that somebody could continue to incorporate farming or allow farming to continue as development. So making sure that you're not fragmenting agricultural lands by doing non-contiguous development, thereby limiting their ability to continue to farm that quarter as development proceeds. So you would they would look at starting from where the built-up area already exists, where development already occurs, before they're getting into those areas, still allowing somebody to continue to farm. You actually see that in Rousseau. They actually farm Rousseau still. And so when we're looking at agricultural impact assessments, they're looking at that. But we're also looking at them to include how you can continue to farm in an urban context. So urban
That's
agriculture.
what I was very interested in
Yeah.
terms of roof gardens and
So
different
we're
kinds
looking
of-
at that, and one of the plans, so Lakeview actually incorporated urban agriculture. They did do an agricultural impact assessment as part of Lakeview, and we looked at how they could incorporate opportunities for urban agriculture as part of their plan.
So if I can just make sure I understand, the assessment has to be done, there needs to be some way of addressing major changes to the area, but given plans that are in place now for the lands, have we gotten to the area structure plan for all of our land yet? That phase? Or there's still area structure plans are going to have to be done for the existing, within our boundaries now? Do we have more to do? I just got lost track of where we are with area structure plans.
Through your worship to Councillor Barnhart, yes, we do have more to do. The only lands that currently have an area structure plan in our new post-2017 boundary is the Alon area structure plan. So the lands to the north and the lands to the south still remain unplanned, and we would have to put an area structure plan.
And to the east as well? Or that's all? Well,
The
it's not
lands that
really
are
all
along the
developed there
eastern
anymore.
boundary are all planned. Yeah.
I think Lakeview was the last one in the...
Lakeview was the last
in the
greenfield
consolidated.
parcel.
On the east side. Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much for that clarification.
Seeing no further questions, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Appreciate it tonight. All right, take a quick 5. All right, call the meeting back to order. All right, so moving on, we're at item number 8, bylaws. First up, bylaw 932-18, assessment review board is here for first, second, and third reading. Ms. Winter.
Thank you, Worship, through you to council and the public. A Regional Assessment Review Board, including the town of Beaumont, Leduc County, and other partner municipalities, was established on February 23rd, 2010. An agreement review was authorized by council at that time. The agreement was renewed in 2013, expired on 2016, and then again the agreement was through to December 31st, 2019. In order to comply with the modernization of the Municipal Government Act, the bylaw and agreement need to be amended prior to the 2019 expiry date. Therefore, is being brought to council for consideration this evening. Leduc County, at their August 28th, 2018 regular council meeting, resolved to enter into an agreement with the town of Beaumont for a 3-year term, starting January 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2021. The current arrangement has been working well for the town of Beaumont, and therefore administration is recommending that council authorize the mayor and chief administrative officer to proceed with signing the Regional Assessment Review Board agreement effective January 1st, 2019 and expiring December 31st, 2021. At this time, administration is recommending first reading, second reading, unanimous consent to third reading, as well as council resolving for mayor and chief administrative officer to sign into the agreement at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there a member of council prepared to move first reading? Councillor Stout.
So moved, Your Worship.
Thank you. Discussion on the motion or questions of admin? Councillor Stout.
Thank you, Worship. Through Your Worship, I suppose to admin, is there some deadline that we have to meet in order to comply with legislation? What's the compelling reason for doing 3 readings on one sitting? I think I've probably stated my objection to this more than once.
CEO?
This bylaw is purely administrative. It doesn't require public hearings. So what we try to do is, in cases like that, move them forward in one agenda so they don't clog up another agenda for no other reason.
Ms. Winter?
Thank you, Your Worship. And just through you to Councillor Stout to add on to our CAO, it's also with an agreement to the Municipal Government Act. So we're making those changes to be in compliance with the changes to the Act. So another reason of bringing it forward for first, second, and third reading as well, and to be able to enter into that agreement as soon as possible.
So are we not currently in compliance with the MGA?
Currently, we're not in compliance with the...
So if we delay this, then it's just a longer period of non-compliance?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Stout. Correct.
Sorry, are there any consequences to being in non-compliance?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Stout. Yes. There could be... this is a very difficult question to answer. Previous councils have been in trouble for not staying within compliance of the Municipal Government Act. It is something that the minister could reprimand us for.
Thank you.
Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you, Worship. And I just have one of those questions that I probably should have asked about 4 years ago. Not really sure I understand what this board does, because I've never been involved in it. In Cole's Notes versions, could you just tell me what would be the kind of appeal that would go to this board, a kind of situation that would go to this board?
I'm just going to thank you, Worship, through Councillor Barnhart. I'm going to refer that to...
Thank you.
Mr. Harris?
Through the mayor to Councillor Barnhart, council, and the public. It's about assessment appeals, basically commercial and property, depending on the size and so forth. So that's what it is. This is it's a agreement that we have such that we don't have to hold these boards. It saves on administration times in regards to the technical aspects and so forth. So it's already been approved by our partner, and that's why we're requesting 3 readings right away, because it's in compliance with the Local Government Act, and we should be good to go.
Follow-up? No? Councillor Montgomery.
I guess I get the values that you bring to this, and your concern is outlined every time, and I guess my response is the same every time. So here it goes. I'm all for cleaning up things, putting less things on our agenda. We've asked administration to do that. I think this is an example of them doing it. If there's a reason if there is a, if 2 weeks is going to change your mind, or you need to think about it, then I'm happy to vote with you there. But if it's just because I don't like doing all three things, then I think we just get this one through. But I also think that we should know that ahead of time so that when it comes to unanimous piece, we can figure out whether we're voting on that or not, right? Because if we're not, then let's not have to go down that road. So can you give me an argument as to why we should delay it? Councillor Stowe.
Thank you, Worship. Through your Worship, Councillor Monkoff-Swain. No, not really. In this case, I don't think there's anything controversial about this. The only concern I really have is what you've just, the presumption that you just made, which was that, maybe you need another 2 weeks to think about it. Well, I guess there is a possibility that there's something I haven't. My point is there is a possibility that something I haven't considered or read in depth enough, and on a second study over the course of a few more days that I might come across. I think it's unlikely in this case. So, yes, I'm inclined to let this one go through, but I still have to ask the question.
My response is I'm going to respond to that. But thank you for the clarification.
All right, further discussion on the motion? All right, so we'll call a vote on first reading. All in favor? That carries. Is there a member of council prepared to move second reading? Councillor Danlock?
So move, Your Worship. Thank you.
Discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, call the vote. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Am I going to get unanimous consent, or are we just moving on in the agenda? Is anybody going to vote no? No? All right. Need a unanimous move. I move that council give unanimous consent to go into third reading to bylaw 932-18 assessment review board, etc. All in favor? Carries. Is there a member of council prepared to move third reading? Councillor Hendricks.
Move, Your Worship.
Thank you. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to bylaw 933-18 Municipal Library Board Amendment. Ms. Winter.
Sorry, Worship, just another motion that was missed. We do need a motion in order to enter into that agreement with Leduc County.
Crap. I was doing so well. I got 4 out of 5. All right, going back up the agenda. All right. So I'll move that council authorize the mayor and chief administrative officer to sign the Regional Assessment Review Board Services Agreement with Leduc County effective January 1, 2019, expiring December 31, 2021. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none. All in favor? Sam? Oh, that carries unanimously. All right, now moving on to bylaw 933-18 Municipal Library Board Amendment. Ms. Winter.
Thank you, Worship, through you to members of council and the public. Previous bylaw 891-17 Beaumont Municipal Library Board received approval on June 13, 2017 with the following membership. 4.1 of the bylaw, that board shall be appointed the council 2 members of council. At the meeting of September 25th, 2018, council resolved to appoint 1 council member and 1 alternate council member to the board. Administration supports the amendment to the Municipal Library Board. I am bringing all 3 readings as this is a text amendment to this meeting, and administration seeks support in all 3 readings this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So just so I'm clear, this is basically make us compliant with the organizational meeting we just had where we appointed 1 councillor, not 2.
Thank you, Worship. That's correct.
Thank you. Is there a member of council prepared to move first reading? Councillor Barnhart.
Yes, Your Worship, I would move first reading, and I have a question.
Fair enough.
Right on. So being a member, right, until tonight, I was a member of the library board. This matter did not come officially to the library board. Perhaps either myself or Councillor Stout should have gotten it on the agenda, but I remembered too late and mentioned it after the fact, but there was no official request to or information that went to the board as part of the agenda. So I'm wondering if we could not do the 3 readings tonight, if it would be more prudent to let the library board know officially that this is being proposed, and just, I think that follows the proper procedure rather than passing all 3 readings tonight without them having had a chance officially to deal with it. So from perhaps a point of view of making sure that we consult our partners, and they are a separate entity. The library is not a department of this administration. And I also see where it says stakeholder engagement, changes to the bylaw will be publicly advertised and citizen involvement will be ongoing. The bylaw won't have a chance to be advertised if we pass all 3 readings tonight.
Comments?
Thank you, Worship, through you to Councillor Barnhart. I personally reached out to the chair of the library board and did send them a letter stating that council at the September 25th council meeting had resolved to move the membership from 2 down to 1 and 1 alternate. I personally did send that information to the library chair.
Did we get any feedback from them?
To date, I haven't received a response as of yet.
Appreciate that, and I know, having talked to him after the board meeting, I don't think there are any concerns, but the rest of the board members would not have heard that. And I just think it's good form. So I will not be giving you unanimous assent to go to 3rd reading.
Further discussion on the motion? Fair enough. All in favor of 1st reading? That carries. Is there a member of council prepared to move 2nd reading? Councillor Stout.
So moved, Your Worship.
Discussion on, sorry?
And I'd offer the same observations as Councillor Barnhart.
Fair enough. Further discussion on the motion? All in favor? And that carries unanimously. And since we're not going to get unanimous consent, I'm not even going to move it. Moving on to item 10, CAO's update. Oh, sorry, item 9, Councillor Committee reports. Is there any member of council wishing to address council this evening? No. Okay, I have a brief update then. We just completed, Beaumont successfully hosted the Mid-Cities Mayor's Caucus, Mayors and CAO's Caucus, Thursday, Friday last week. Our town was really well represented, and it was really well received by the mayors that visited us. We did come up with a couple things, and there was some neat information ideas that were passed around. But the one big concern that came out from the Mid-City Mayor's Caucus was that we need a proper fiscal framework going forward with the province. Our conversations specifically centered around advocating for an MSI component that is being legislated in this fall. We're still working on some initiatives as we go forward, and I will be, as those initiatives get fleshed out, I'll be coming to council to help push that agenda forward with our MLAs and our cabinet ministers and as we move forward. Other than that, there was a really neat, Airdrie is doing some really neat initiatives with their health. They're becoming a blue, I left my notes in my office. And I will send it out to council, but they're basically doing a big revamp on how they do healthcare in Airdrie. So instead of fee-for-service model, they're trying to get all their doctors to buy into holistic healthcare. So you go before you get sick, so they keep you healthy before you before you need intervention services. They're also going so far as to go into their grocery stores to have chocolate bars moved to the back and fruit put by their front of their grocery stores was one of the things they've used. So it's interesting that they're quite far down this path, and it was quite an interesting initiative. So as those sort of things come up, and hopefully we'll go forward, and that'll be fun. Councillor McGough-Swain.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank administration for all the work that was put into putting that event on. There was a good representation from council at the latter part of the evening. I wasn't able to be at all of it, but all the feedback that we got from everyone said it was a great day, and they really learned a lot about Beaumont and can see a really exciting culture here. So I just want to thank you and the Mayor for hosting a really good session for Beaumont.
Thank you. All right, seeing no further requests, we'll move on to CAO's update. Mr. Schwartz.
Just really quickly, or maybe I'll drag it out. I can't remember who's got what on the pool. Councillor Monkoff-Swain. Oh yeah, you do.
All right, we're not sandbagging.
Just very quickly, budget workshop this week, Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday. Looking forward to that. Packages are out. They're also online for the public to have a look at, and of course for council to go through. Happy World Planning Day. Where did they come up with Happy World Planning Day?
It's awesome.
World Town Planning Day. World Town Planning Day. Okay. So tomorrow morning we're going to have 18 planners walking in here in various degree of hungover and tiredness.
Well, it's not
till
It's November 8th.
It's November 8th. Oh, okay.
So yeah.
Is this the last one that we get to be part of?
Probably.
That's correct. It is. You're right.
Yeah.
No.
That's all I have, Your Worship. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I got nothing.
Any questions for the CEO? Councillor Danlock.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm not sure it's directed to our CEO directly, but perhaps Ms. Mohammed may be able to answer the question for me. Early in this evening, we had a presentation on the Colonial Park idea and the location they had proposed on their map. I drove by with a fellow council this afternoon to get a kind of visual feel for it. My question is, can we find out as part of our budget deliberations, was the developer not supposed to do something with that piece of land in terms of a park type facility, or is that it is done the way it was supposed to be done from the developer when they did the subdivision, and it is their obligation has been fulfilled, and now we're building a park in addition to what was not expected the developer to do? No, I don't expect an answer this evening, but if we can have an answer later on, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Ms. Mohammed.
Thank you, Your Worship. The developer has fulfilled what was negotiated at the time through their development agreement. It's not rare to find green spaces throughout communities. They call them pocket parks. At any point, a playground can be built into these pocket parks. At no time should anyone, when they decide to move next to a municipal reserve park, should an assumption be made that nothing will ever happen in that park. It is municipal land. Those parks are put in place, the pocket parks, to allow for passive recreation. So whether there's a playground there or not, children can go there and play soccer games and do all sorts of things. So that's the purpose of that green space. It's not a natural green space. It's meant for recreation.
Follow up. Yes, a follow up. I guess I appreciate your answer entirely. I guess my question was something perhaps not done that should have been done before as a developer, and we just never, as a town, got around to saying, listen, you're supposed to build a park there as part of your area development plan with stuff in it, and you didn't do it, and no one ever held them accountable, and now the community is saying, you need a park. I guess I'm going from that particular angle, not knowing when that actual area was done. If obligations were fulfilled, that answers my question. I do agree that people should expect backing a green space, things might change. I get that totally. Thank you.
Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you, Worship. To the CAO, just a question about an environmental update on, an environmental strategic planning update. Would we be scheduled to be having any update on that prior to budget, or would it be something that we might request to have come earlier in the new year? Just wondering where we're at with some of the requests I made in our quarterly updates. I had asked you about Creek Watch and what we might be doing around water quality and things like that with the canal. So I'm just wondering where that might be at.
Councillor Barnhart, are you referring to the environmental master plan?
Yeah.
Parts of
Well,
that?
I'm
What
trying
is
to
the
remember which
schedule?
plans we had in place.
It's Mr. Allen, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Harris.
Through your worship to Councillor Barnhart, Council, and the public, it's in the budget for next year, the 5-year update of the environmental master plan.
Okay, so right now, to get what we have in place, I can get it through the internet. We have it online, the existing plan. I can find a copy of it. It's in my
yeah, it
file
should be
somewhere, but I
online,
can't
yeah.
find it.
If not, we'll make sure it's online.
Would you, maybe somebody send me
Yeah.
a copy?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no further questions, there's no correspondence this evening. Is there any notices of motion? Seeing none, there are no in-camera items, and we are adjourned.